You don't drift into purpose. You settle into it quietly, gradually, often without realizing the moment it takes shape. Tonight is not about searching for direction. It's about allowing direction to form when the noise finally goes silent. Most people believe purpose arrives through effort, pressure, or sudden clarity. They chase it during the day, comparing paths, questioning choices, forcing answers that refuse to appear. But purpose avoids strain. It forms when the mind stops demanding and starts listening. There is a state the mind enters just before sleep where indecision loosens its grip, the endless inner debate softens. And in that stillness, something rare becomes possible: alignment without argument. During the day, thought is scattered by urgency. At night, thought becomes moldable. Whatever ideas are introduced now sink past doubt and begin organizing themselves into direction. A definite aim does not begin as a detailed plan. It begins as a feeling of rightness, a quiet sense that something fits even before it can be explained. That feeling cannot survive noise, but it thrives in rest. Think of how often you wake up uncertain, not because you lack ability, but because your mind never had a chance to settle on one clear direction. Indecision is exhausting. The mind craves order. As the body relaxes, the mind looks for something stable to organize around. If none is provided, it drifts. But when a steady idea is introduced calmly, the mind begins building around it automatically. Purpose is not forced into existence, it is accepted. And acceptance happens most easily when resistance is absent. Most people confuse activity with progress. They stay busy to avoid stillness, not realizing that stillness is where clarity forms. Tonight, stillness is no longer empty. It is guided. You are not here to decide every detail of your future. You are here to allow a central aim to take shape, one that will quietly influence decisions, habits, and focus without constant effort. The mind prefers unity. When it has one clear direction, scattered impulses lose strength. Energy gathers instead of leaks. Notice how the idea of purpose feels when there is no pressure to define it perfectly, no timeline, no comparison, just permission for something meaningful to emerge. This is how all enduring aims are formed, not through urgency, but through calm repetition. The mind begins to recognize what matters by what it is repeatedly shown in peace. During sleep, the subconscious continues working. It connects ideas, evaluates experience, and filters desire without interference. When given a direction to organize around, it does so efficiently. Most people give their subconscious chaos before sleep: unfinished worries, borrowed ambitions, other people's expectations. Then they wonder why clarity never arrives. Tonight, something different is offered. A single assumption: there is a purpose forming and it belongs to me. Assumptions made in rest become expectations in waking life. Expectations guide attention. Attention shapes opportunity. You don't need to know what the aim is yet. You only need to allow the mind to begin shaping one. Shape comes before definition. Feeling comes before language. Purpose feels like steadiness, not excitement. Excitement fades. Steadiness remains. As these words repeat, the mind begins eliminating what does not belong. Distractions lose appeal. Certain thoughts stop returning. This is not loss. It is refinement. A definite aim simplifies life. Decisions become easier because fewer options feel relevant. Energy stops scattering. Confidence grows quietly. This is why those with purpose move differently. They are not rushed. They are not easily distracted. They are internally aligned. Alignment does not shout. It hums beneath the surface, guiding choices without explanation. Most people wait for purpose to appear fully formed. It never does. It forms the way sleep does, gradually, when you stop trying to control it. Tonight, control is released. Direction is invited. As the hours pass, the subconscious begins sorting desire from impulse. What is fleeting fades. What is meaningful remains. You may notice a sense of calm replacing restlessness. Restlessness is the mind without aim. Calm is the mind beginning to agree with itself. This agreement is powerful. When the mind agrees internally, action becomes natural. You stop forcing progress. You begin moving with it. Purpose does not demand that you change everything at once. It simply asks that you stop resisting what feels right. While you rest, the mind rehearses identity. Identity forms behavior long before logic is involved. When identity aligns with aim, consistency follows. This is how overnight change actually happens, not through sudden answers, but through quiet internal organization. You may wake without knowing exactly what your aim is. That is normal. What matters is that you wake with a sense of direction rather than confusion. Direction precedes clarity. Clarity follows movement. Most people wait for clarity to act. Purposeful people act from direction and allow clarity to catch up. Tonight, direction is being installed gently, without struggle. As repetition continues, the idea of having a definite aim begins to feel normal. Normal thoughts guide behavior without resistance. This is the beginning of momentum. Momentum does not require force. It requires consistency aligned with purpose. The mind prefers to serve one clear master. When purpose is absent, distraction takes over. When purpose is present, discipline follows naturally. You are not here to borrow someone else's aim. You are here to allow yours to surface. As the body sinks deeper, the need to analyze fades. Analysis belongs to the conscious mind. Formation belongs to the subconscious. Let the process happen without supervision. Purpose is patient. It does not rush you. It waits for agreement. Agreement is what you are giving now. While you sleep, the mind continues refining. It strengthens what resonates and releases what doesn't. This happens automatically when resistance is absent. This is why the aim that forms in rest is stronger than one forced in effort. It is integrated, not imposed. When morning comes, you may notice subtle changes. A pull towards certain ideas, a disinterest in others. These are signs of formation. Purpose does not announce itself. It reveals itself through preference. Pay attention to what begins to hold your attention naturally. Attention is the compass of the mind. Tonight, that compass is being calibrated. You are no longer drifting, even if you can't yet explain the destination. The direction is setting. Rest in that knowing. A definite chief aim is not created by strain. It is allowed to form when the mind is calm enough to hear itself. This calm is here now. Let the body rest. Let the mind organize. There is nothing to solve. Purpose is already taking shape. And once it does, it will guide you quietly long after this night ends. I have learned, through long observation of men in every walk of life, that there is no condition more costly than living without a central aim. Poverty, failure, and uncertainty do not arise first from lack of opportunity, but from lack of direction. A man without an aim may work harder than others and still arrive nowhere. Drift is not idleness. Drift is movement without command. It is the condition in which circumstance decides, while the man believes he is choosing. Most drift their entire lives, mistaking motion for progress and activity for purpose, never realizing that effort without aim scatters power. The mind was never designed to function without a central organizing idea. When no such idea exists, thought disperses. Energy leaks. Attention wanders. Fatigue appears without sufficient cause. The man grows weary, not because he has done too much, but because nothing he does pulls in one direction. Men often ask why they feel restless even when busy. Restlessness is the mind seeking unity. It is the discomfort of scattered desire. When the mind has no chief aim to gather around, it wanders endlessly, searching for something solid enough to rest upon. I have seen men of great ability remain ordinary for decades, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked a fixed purpose. They responded to demands, opportunities, and urgencies, yet never chose a destination. They allowed the day to decide for them. Others, less gifted by circumstance, rose steadily because they possessed one clear aim. That aim did not always begin as a detailed plan. Often, it was only a strong feeling of direction. Yet that feeling gathered thought, simplified choice, and conserved strength. Without a definite aim, the mind becomes hospitable to every influence. The opinions of others enter freely. Fear borrows authority. Habit replaces judgment. A man begins to live by reaction instead of intention. Reaction exhausts. Intention energizes. This is why so many men feel drained by life while accomplishing little of lasting value. They are not weak, they are scattered. Their power is divided among too many directions, none strong enough to command loyalty from the mind. The man with a definite chief aim feels a different fatigue. His tiredness comes from use, not waste. He rests more deeply because his mind is not constantly negotiating with itself. Others sense this difference instinctively. They trust the man who knows where he is going, even if he cannot yet explain the full route. Certainty of direction carries authority before results appear. Aimlessness, on the other hand, produces visible uncertainty. Others hesitate to follow those who hesitate within themselves. Confidence cannot form where direction is absent. The greatest danger of living without a chief aim is not failure. It is substitution. The man without an aim adopts the aims of others. He chases borrowed ambitions, inherited expectations, and fashionable goals that do not belong to him. These borrowed aims never satisfy. They require constant reinforcement because they lack inner agreement. The mind resists what it does not recognize as its own. This resistance appears as procrastination, doubt, and distraction. The man believes he lacks discipline, when in truth, he lacks purpose strong enough to command discipline. A definite chief aim does not require force. It attracts obedience. Once the mind recognizes a direction as its own, it aligns willingly. Habits reorganize. Attention gathers. Effort becomes lighter. I have observed that men who finally discover their aim often describe it not as excitement, but as relief. Relief from endless choosing. Relief from inner argument. Relief from the feeling of being pulled apart. The mind prefers unity. When it has one clear direction, many problems dissolve without being solved. Decisions simplify. Energy returns. This is why aimlessness produces anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling of movement without destination. Purpose removes anxiety by giving movement meaning. Night is the only time when most men can feel this clearly. During the day, noise hides the condition. At night, when the body rests, the mind feels its own disorder. Many try to escape this feeling by filling the night with distraction. They fall asleep amid noise because silence would reveal the absence of direction. Yet silence is exactly where purpose begins to form. Tonight, silence is no longer empty. It is guided. The purpose of this moment is not to force a decision. Forced decisions rarely endure. The purpose is to allow the mind to feel what it is like to rest around one central idea. You do not need to name the aim yet. Naming comes later. First comes agreement. Agreement is the moment when the mind stops pulling in many directions and begins to gather around one. I have seen this agreement form quietly in men who later shaped industries, movements, and fortunes. Long before they possessed plans or resources, they possessed inner alignment. Edwin C. Barnes did not know how he would work with Edison. He knew only that he would. That single agreement governed his conduct until opportunity matched conviction. Henry Ford did not begin with a detailed empire in mind. He began with a fixed determination to produce a reliable motor car. That determination filtered every decision. These men did not drift into purpose. They settled into it. Others saw them as persistent, confident, even stubborn. In truth, they were aligned. Alignment appears to others as certainty. The man without a chief aim appears busy but uncertain. The man with one appears calm even when idle. Affirm this gently now, without pressure. I do not drift. Direction is forming within me. My mind is ready for unity. A central aim is taking shape. These are not demands, they are permissions. The subconscious responds more readily to permission than to force. As these ideas repeat, the mind begins to release what does not belong. Certain thoughts lose importance, certain desires fade. This is not loss, it is refinement. Refinement is the removal of excess so the essential may stand out. The mind is always seeking what matters most. When too many things compete, it grows tired. When one thing begins to dominate gently, the mind rests. Rest is not inactivity. Rest is alignment without strain. You may not feel excitement now. That is correct. Purpose does not shout. It settles. As the body sinks deeper into rest, the mind becomes more willing to let go of borrowed aims and unresolved wants. It begins to listen inwardly instead of outwardly. Listening is the first act of purpose. You are not here to solve your future. You are here to give your mind permission to begin organizing itself around what feels right. That organization will continue while you sleep. Connections will form. Priorities will shift. This happens without supervision when resistance is absent. Most men attempt to build purpose during the day when resistance is highest. That is why they fail. Purpose forms when resistance sleeps. Tonight, resistance is sleeping. Allow the mind to remain open, not searching, not deciding, simply allowing agreement to form. The definite chief aim does not arrive fully dressed. It grows clearer as it is lived. What matters now is that drift is losing authority. Direction is beginning to appear. Rest here. The mind knows what to do next. A definite chief aim never appears suddenly, fully shaped and explained. That belief has misled more men than failure itself. Purpose does not arrive as a finished statement. It arrives first as a quiet sense of rightness, a feeling that something fits even before it can be described. The mind must agree before it can explain. When explanation is demanded too soon, agreement withdraws. This is why so many men fail to discover purpose. They attempt to force language onto something that has not yet been allowed to settle. I have observed repeatedly that men who later achieved extraordinary success did not begin with perfect clarity. They began with an inner leaning, a persistent attraction toward one direction that refused to disappear. They trusted that leaning long before they trusted their understanding of it. Clarity is the reward of patience. Agreement is the foundation of clarity. The order cannot be reversed. The conscious mind prefers details. It seeks names, plans, assurances. The subconscious works differently. It recognizes harmony, direction, and fitness before it recognizes form. When the two are allowed to work together, purpose forms naturally. Most men attempt to decide their aim by comparing themselves to others. They look outward for direction, measuring paths, incomes, positions, and approval. This habit guarantees confusion because purpose is never borrowed successfully. Borrowed direction feels heavy. It requires constant justification. The mind resists what it does not recognize as its own. True purpose, even when vague, feels light. It simplifies rather than complicates. It reduces inner argument instead of increasing it. When a man notices this effect, he is closer to a definite aim than he realizes. I have found that the earliest sign of purpose is not excitement, but relief. Relief from endless choosing. Relief from comparison. Relief from the sense of being pulled apart by too many possibilities. This relief is the mind discovering unity. When unity begins forming, certain thoughts stop returning. Certain ambitions lose their appeal. The man may feel confused at first, believing he is losing options. In truth, he is gaining direction. Direction always eliminates. It must. An aim that includes everything guides nothing. The subconscious understands this instinctively. When given permission to settle, it begins sorting desire from impulse. What is fleeting fades. What is essential remains. This process cannot be rushed. Impatience interrupts it. Night is the proper time for it because impatience sleeps when the body rests. Henry Ford did not begin with an explanation of his life's purpose. He began with a fixed determination to improve transportation. The explanation came later. The determination came first. Andrew Carnegie did not start with a detailed fortune in mind. He began with a desire to become master of his chosen field. That desire organized his conduct long before his success justified it. These men allowed agreement to form before clarity arrived. Others observed them and saw confidence where there was only alignment. Alignment appears outwardly as certainty, even when details are incomplete. The mind craves this alignment. Without it, thought pulls in opposite directions, draining strength. With it, effort gathers power. Many men wait for clarity before committing themselves. They do not realize that commitment produces clarity. Commitment does not require full understanding. It requires agreement. Agreement is the moment when the mind stops debating whether a direction is acceptable and begins organizing around it. You may notice now that certain ideas feel closer than others, even if you cannot explain why. Do not attempt to interrogate these ideas. Interrogation belongs to doubt. Allowance belongs to formation. The subconscious does its best work when it is not questioned constantly. Purpose is shy. It avoids argument. It appears when the mind becomes hospitable instead of demanding. This is why pressure is the enemy of direction. Pressure tells the mind that something is wrong. When something feels wrong, the mind scatters. When something feels permitted, the mind settles. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I allow my direction to form. I trust inner agreement. Clarity will follow alignment. What belongs to me is becoming known. These are not statements of decision. They are statements of trust. Trust invites cooperation from the subconscious. As these thoughts repeat, the mind begins to lean more consistently in one direction. This leaning may express itself as curiosity, attraction, or quiet conviction. Do not label it yet. Labeling too soon fixes what must remain flexible in early stages. Purpose forms the way sleep forms. You do not force sleep. You allow it by removing interference. In the same way, you do not force purpose. You allow it by removing noise. Most men fill their nights with borrowed concerns, unfinished conversations, and imagined judgments. These crowd out direction. Tonight, those have been set aside. A single assumption is now present. There is a purpose forming, and it belongs to me. Assumptions accepted in rest become expectations in waking life. Expectation guides attention. Attention shapes opportunity. You may awaken without knowing the name of your aim. That is expected. What matters is that you awaken less scattered. Scattered minds chase clarity. Aligned minds attract it. Others will notice this alignment before you do. They will see steadiness where there was once hesitation. They will sense intention where there was once reaction. They may ask, what has changed? You may not yet have words. That is not weakness. That is formation still in progress. A definite chief aim does not require announcement. It reveals itself through consistency. As the body relaxes further, the mind becomes more willing to release urgency. Urgency belongs to indecision. Direction removes it naturally. Notice how the idea of allowing purpose feels different from the idea of choosing purpose. Allowing feels lighter. That lightness is the correct signal. The mind knows when something fits. This fitting does not demand that every question be answered. It only requires that resistance be removed. You are not here to finalize your future. You are here to permit the center of it to emerge. Once that center exists, details will organize around it naturally. Habits will adjust. Opportunities will appear relevant or irrelevant without effort. This is how men with purpose move through life with less strain. They are not driven. They are drawn. Draw is stronger than push. As you continue resting, the mind continues sorting quietly. There is nothing for you to do but remain open. Openness is not uncertainty. It is preparation. The definite chief aim is not something you invent. It is something you recognize when the mind is calm enough to see it. That calm is present now. Let the process continue without supervision. Agreement is forming. Clarity will follow. And the mind, relieved of debate, is already beginning to gather itself around what matters most. There is a part of the mind that works best when the will grows quiet. This part does not argue, compare, or demand proof. It accepts impressions and organizes them according to natural law. I have called this part the subconscious, not to mystify it, but to distinguish it from the reasoning mind that dominates the day. During waking hours, the reasoning mind is restless. It questions every impulse, weighs every possibility, and resists what it cannot immediately understand. This resistance is useful for detail, but destructive for direction. Direction must be felt before it can be reasoned. At night, the reasoning mind withdraws, the senses relax, attention loosens its grip on the outer world. In this condition, the subconscious becomes receptive. It no longer debates whether an idea is practical or approved. It asks only whether the idea is repeated calmly. This is why night is the proper season for purpose to take root. I have observed that men who discover their definite chief aim often do so without conscious effort. They wake with a sense of direction that did not exist the night before. They cannot explain how it arrived. It formed while resistance was absent. Most men fail to understand this process and attempt to force direction through effort. They strain to decide, analyze, and compare. In doing so, they keep the subconscious from completing its work. Purpose retreats when interrogated. The subconscious responds not to force, but to familiarity. Whatever is placed before it repeatedly, especially in calm states, it begins to accept as important. Importance is the beginning of organization. When a single idea is introduced gently night after night, the subconscious begins to build around it. It connects memory, desire, and experience without instruction. It eliminates what does not fit and strengthens what does. This process cannot be hurried. It must be allowed. Consider how sleep itself forms. You do not command sleep. You create conditions and allow it to arrive. Purpose forms in exactly the same way. Conditions matter more than effort. The condition required here is calm repetition without pressure. When the idea of having a definite aim is presented to the mind without demand for immediate definition, the subconscious begins preparing one. It searches experience. It weighs desire. It tests harmony. Harmony is the signal it follows. Men often mistake excitement for purpose. Excitement fades quickly because it belongs to emotion. Purpose endures because it belongs to harmony. Harmony feels steady, not urgent. The night mind recognizes harmony immediately. It organizes around it because harmony reduces internal friction. This is why scattered men feel tired even when resting. Their minds are in conflict. This is why purposeful men rest deeply. Their minds agree. I have seen men abandon old habits effortlessly once a chief aim formed. The aim did not require them to change. It made change natural. The subconscious aligned conduct without debate. Others observed this and believed the man had developed discipline. In truth, discipline followed purpose. Purpose always comes first. Henry Ford's aim organized his thinking long before it organized his factories. His mind had settled on direction years before the world recognized his success. Edwin C. Barnes' decision to work with Edison was not logical at first. It was harmonious. His subconscious accepted it as final long before opportunity appeared. These men trusted the night mind to complete what the day mind could not. The subconscious is not impressed by urgency. Urgency signals doubt. Doubt fragments attention. Fragmentation prevents organization. Calm repetition signals certainty. Certainty invites alignment. As you rest now, the idea of a definite chief aim is being repeated gently. You are not asked to name it. You are asked only to allow its formation. Allowing is an act of confidence. Confidence removes resistance. You may notice that the mind begins to return to the same few ideas repeatedly, while others lose their appeal. This is the subconscious narrowing focus. Narrowing is not limitation. It is refinement. Refinement precedes power. A river that spreads across many paths loses force. A river that gathers into one channel moves mountains. The mind follows the same law. Night after night, as the body rests, the subconscious continues gathering. It does not require supervision. It works more efficiently when left undisturbed. This is why listening is more important than thinking here. Thinking belongs to daylight. Listening belongs to night. Listening does not mean passivity. It means openness without demand. Affirm this gently now, without pressure. I allow my inner mind to organize. My purpose is forming naturally. Harmony guides my direction. What matters most is becoming clear. These are not instructions to work harder. They are permissions to settle. The subconscious accepts permission readily. It resists command. As these ideas repeat, the mind grows less interested in scattered ambition. Certain desires feel less urgent. This is not loss of drive. It is concentration. Concentration increases power even before action begins. Others will sense this change as steadiness. They may say you seem more focused, even if you have not changed your routine. Focus is the outward sign of inner organization. The night mind prepares focus before the day mind uses it. You may wake in the coming days with new preferences. Some paths will feel heavier, others lighter. Trust this sensation. Preference is the language of the subconscious. Do not rush to justify it. Justification belongs to doubt. Allow preference to lead quietly. Purpose does not need defense. It grows stronger when not argued. Most men never allow this stage to complete. They interrupt it with worry, comparison, and impatience. Tonight, interruption has been removed. The mind is doing what it was designed to do. Let it. There is nothing to finalize now. Finality will come later, when agreement is complete. Agreement is forming now. As the body sinks deeper, the subconscious continues arranging priorities. It strengthens what resonates and dissolves what does not. This work continues even after words fade. Trust the process. Purpose is patient. It does not rush you. It waits for alignment. Alignment is happening now. Rest here. The night mind is building something steady. And when it is ready, clarity will appear without force, as naturally as waking follows sleep. One of the greatest obstacles to a definite chief aim is not ignorance, but confusion between what belongs to a man and what has been placed upon him. Most men carry ambitions that were never chosen. They inherit them through custom, expectation, and fear of criticism, mistaking familiarity for purpose. The mind accepts these borrowed desires early in life, often before it learns to question them. They settle quietly and begin directing conduct, even when they do not harmonize with inner nature. This creates strain the man cannot explain. Strain is the signal of misalignment. When effort feels heavy, it is often because the aim does not fit. The mind resists what it does not recognize as its own, no matter how sensible it appears. I have observed men who achieved positions they were taught to want, only to feel emptier than before. They believed success would produce satisfaction, yet satisfaction never arrived. The aim was borrowed, not chosen. Borrowed aims require constant reinforcement. They must be defended, justified, and explained. True aims require none of these. They feel quietly sufficient. The mind rests around them without argument. This is why stillness is so important in the formation of purpose. Stillness removes the voices of others. When those voices fade, the mind can hear itself for the first time. Many men fear this silence. They fill it with noise because they are afraid of discovering that much of what they have pursued does not belong to them. Yet discovery is the beginning of freedom. The subconscious is capable of distinguishing between true desire and imitation. It does so through harmony. What belongs creates calm. What is borrowed creates tension. At night, when comparison sleeps, harmony becomes easier to feel. The mind no longer measures itself against others. It measures fit. This is why purpose formed in rest is stronger than purpose formed in debate. Debate invites imitation. Rest invites recognition. I have seen men abandon paths that once consumed them, not through rebellion, but through quiet realization. The path no longer felt right. No argument was needed. The mind simply withdrew its interest. Others observed this change and called it courage. In truth, it was clarity. Consider how many ambitions you have carried that required constant reassurance. These ambitions were never stable because they did not arise from inner agreement. Stability cannot be borrowed. The definite chief aim always feels personal. It does not need approval. It does not seek applause. It satisfies before it succeeds. Henry Ford ignored nearly every accepted ambition of his time. He did not seek status or speculation. He sought mastery of one idea. That simplicity protected him from borrowed desire. Andrew Carnegie rejected many profitable distractions because they did not serve his central aim. Others saw stubbornness. He felt alignment. Alignment often looks like refusal to those who drift. They cannot understand why a man would turn away from opportunity. They do not see that opportunity is meaningless without direction. The night mind assists in this separation quietly. It begins to loosen emotional ties to borrowed aims. Certain thoughts stop returning. Certain pursuits lose their attraction. This process is gentle. It does not tear ambition away. It allows it to fade. You may notice a mild discomfort as false directions dissolve. This discomfort is temporary. It is the feeling of old habits losing authority. Do not resist it. Resistance keeps what is leaving alive. Allow false aims to depart without explanation. Explanation invites debate. Debate restores confusion. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I release what does not belong to me. My true aim stands apart. Borrowed desires lose their hold. What fits remains. These are not rejections. They are acknowledgments. As the mind continues sorting, it becomes lighter. Fewer ambitions compete. Fewer voices speak. This quiet is not emptiness. It is space. Space allows the true aim to stand out. Most men never experience this clarity because they never allow subtraction. They believe progress requires addition. In truth, direction requires removal. Removal does not reduce power, it concentrates it. Others will sense this concentration as sincerity. They will feel that you are no longer trying to be many things at once. This authenticity invites trust. Trust follows clarity. As borrowed aims fall away, the mind no longer needs to defend itself. It stops explaining choices, it stops justifying direction, it simply proceeds. This is how purpose begins to harden into certainty. The subconscious continues this work long after words fade. It recognizes harmony and rejects discord automatically when not interrupted. Let this process continue now. There is nothing to correct. The night mind knows what belongs and what does not. You do not need to decide what to release. Release happens naturally when alignment is felt. Alignment is the guide. As the body rests deeper, the mind grows less attached to comparison. Comparison is the breeding ground of borrowed desire. When comparison ends, authenticity emerges. Purpose formed without comparison cannot be shaken by criticism. This is why the aim that survives the night is stronger than the one chosen under pressure. Allow the night to finish separating what is, yours from what is not. What remains will feel quiet, steady, and unquestioned. That is the mark of a true, definite chief aim, beginning to stand alone. Rest here. The sorting is underway, and clarity is approaching without effort. A true, definite chief aim announces itself quietly. It does not arrive with excitement or urgency. It settles. It brings a sense of rightness that does not require explanation. Men often overlook this signal because they expect purpose to feel dramatic. Drama belongs to emotion. Purpose belongs to harmony. Excitement is temporary by nature. It rises quickly and falls just as fast. When an aim depends upon excitement for its strength, it cannot endure. The mind grows tired of what must be constantly stimulated. A true aim does not need stimulation. It holds attention without effort. I have found that the first emotional sign of a true aim is relief. Relief from indecision, relief from endless choosing, relief from the feeling of being pulled in many directions at once. This relief is the mind recognizing unity. Unity produces calm. Calm is not weakness. Calm is the absence of inner conflict. When thought no longer argues with itself, energy becomes available for use. Men often confuse calm with lack of ambition. In truth, calm ambition is the most powerful kind. It does not burn itself out. It persists. It waits when waiting serves, and moves when movement is required. I have observed that men who possess a true chief aim sleep more deeply than others. Their minds rest because there is nothing left to debate. Debate consumes strength. Agreement restores it. This is why the mind seeks purpose. Purpose removes the burden of constant evaluation. When one direction is accepted, countless small decisions dissolve. A false aim produces tension. The man feels driven rather than drawn. He must continually convince himself to continue. He requires encouragement, reassurance, and approval. The mind resists what it does not accept. A true aim produces steadiness. The man continues even when encouragement is absent. He does not need to justify his direction. He feels no urge to explain himself. His energy is conserved. Others sense this steadiness instinctively. They trust men whose energy does not rise and fall erratically. They feel safe around those who are internally settled. This is why purposeful men often appear confident before success arrives. Confidence is not a result of achievement. It is a result of alignment. Alignment removes doubt at its root. I have watched men abandon promising opportunities because they did not align with their aim. Others thought them foolish. In time, those men were proven wise. Opportunity that does not serve purpose distracts. Purpose simplifies life by subtraction. It removes what does not belong. The emotional signature of a true aim is also endurance. When difficulty arises, excitement fades, but steadiness remains. The man continues not because he feels compelled, but because stopping would feel unnatural. This is how men persist without strain. Persistence is not force. It is loyalty to harmony. Henry Ford faced ridicule and resistance for years. His calm did not come from excitement. It came from certainty. His aim fit him. That fit sustained him. Edwin C. Barnes waited patiently because his aim did not require urgency. Urgency would have signaled doubt. His patience was confidence disguised as stillness. Men without purpose rush because they fear loss. Men with purpose wait because they trust direction. Waiting does not mean inaction. It means readiness without anxiety. Another sign of a true aim is quiet confidence in solitude. When alone, the man feels no urge to distract himself from his direction. He does not need noise to reassure him. Silence feels companionable. False aims demand distraction because silence exposes misalignment. True aims welcome silence because silence strengthens agreement. At night, this difference becomes clear. The mind either settles or grows restless. Restlessness is the mind searching for unity. Calm is the mind recognizing it. As you rest now, notice which ideas bring calm and which create agitation. Do not analyze, simply notice. Calm indicates harmony. Harmony does not require explanation. Affirm this gently now, without pressure. I recognize my aim by its steadiness. Calm is my guide. What fits brings relief. My purpose does not hurry me. These are not declarations of certainty. They are acknowledgments of sensation. Sensation precedes language. The subconscious communicates through feeling before thought. When the feeling of rightness appears repeatedly, thought eventually names it. Do not rush this naming. Names can wait. Harmony cannot be forced. Men often abandon true aims because they feel too simple. Simplicity is deceptive. The mind expects purpose to feel complex. In reality, complexity often signals confusion. True aims are often expressed in plain terms. Their power lies not in wording, but in persistence. Others will notice that once a man settles into his aim, his reactions soften. He no longer overreacts to obstacles. Obstacles become details rather than threats. This emotional resilience is not learned. It emerges naturally from alignment. The mind protects what it accepts as essential. When purpose is accepted, it is defended without effort. This defense does not appear as aggression, it appears as steadiness. Steadiness repels distraction. Distraction feeds on uncertainty. As the body sinks deeper into rest, allow the mind to remain attentive to calm rather than excitement. Excitement fades. Calm endures. You may notice that some desires feel louder than others. Loudness is not importance. Loudness often belongs to impulse. The true aim does not shout. It remains. Remain with what remains. The night mind strengthens this recognition through repetition. Each night spent noticing calm reinforces trust in it. Over time, the calm becomes familiar. Familiarity becomes confidence. Confidence becomes action. Action taken from calm does not exhaust. It accumulates strength. This is why men with true purpose often seem tireless. They are not driven. They are supported. Support comes from inner agreement. Agreement is forming now. You do not need to seize it. You only need to allow it. The emotional signature you are learning to recognize will guide you long after this night ends. When choices arise, calm will indicate alignment. Agitation will indicate distraction. This guidance will not fail you because it is rooted in harmony, not opinion. Rest now with this understanding. Purpose is not dramatic. It is steady, and steadiness is already becoming familiar. Once a definite chief aim begins to settle, a remarkable change occurs within the mind. Discipline no longer feels imposed. It arises naturally, as water flows downhill. The man does not command himself to act differently. He simply finds that certain actions now feel appropriate, while others feel out of place. This is because purpose is an organizing principle. It gathers scattered impulses and assigns them rank. Without an aim, habits compete for control. With an aim, habits fall into order. The mind no longer debates endlessly which course to take. Direction has already been chosen. Most men attempt to build discipline without purpose. They rely on force, schedules, or fear of consequence. These methods fail because they do not address the cause. Discipline cannot stand where direction is absent. It collapses under pressure because it lacks loyalty. A definite chief aim commands loyalty without argument. When the mind accepts a direction as its own, it begins defending it instinctively. Choices are filtered. Time is guarded. Energy is conserved. All of this occurs without conscious struggle. I have observed that men with a settled aim rise earlier, work longer, and persist more patiently than others, not because they push themselves, but because deviation feels uncomfortable. Alignment creates its own boundaries. Boundaries formed by purpose are not resented, they are welcomed. The man does not feel restricted. He feels protected from distraction. This is the difference between discipline enforced and discipline inspired. Enforced discipline requires constant supervision. Inspired discipline functions even when attention relaxes. Henry Ford did not force himself to ignore distractions. Distractions simply lost relevance once his aim was fixed. The motor car became his measure. Everything else was judged by whether it served that purpose. Andrew Carnegie did not struggle to focus his efforts. His aim filtered opportunity automatically. What did not serve mastery of his chosen field was dismissed without conflict. These men did not practice discipline as an act of will. Discipline followed their aim as a shadow follows form. Once a chief aim exists, habit becomes its servant. Habits align themselves around the central purpose because the subconscious prefers harmony to conflict. Harmony simplifies. Without harmony, the mind exhausts itself deciding what to do next. With harmony, decisions make themselves. You may notice as purpose settles that certain habits become easier to maintain. Others weaken without resistance. This is not coincidence. it is alignment at work. False habits require constant energy to sustain because they lack purpose. True habits are fueled by aim. They draw strength from it. Men often believe they lack willpower. In truth, they lack a reason strong enough to command obedience. When the reason arrives, willpower becomes unnecessary. Purpose makes discipline economical. Others observe this change quickly. They see consistency where there was once fluctuation. They see follow through where there was once delay. They trust men whose conduct no longer contradicts their intentions. Trust is the outward reward of inner alignment. As habits organize, the mind grows calmer. Calm is not idleness. Calm is efficiency. The man spends less energy correcting himself because there is less to correct. Correction becomes subtle. When distraction appears, it is noticed and released without frustration. Frustration belonged to conflict. Conflict has been reduced. The man no longer argues with himself about what he should do. He already knows. This knowledge does not shout, it guides quietly. This is how discipline becomes sustainable. Sustainability is more important than intensity. Intensity fades. Sustainability compounds. The mind prefers to work in service of one master. When the master is clear, service is steady. When the master is absent, service becomes chaotic. As the body rests now, the subconscious continues aligning habit with aim. It reinforces what fits and loosens what does not. This work continues even after thought fades. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. My purpose orders my habits. Discipline follows direction. What does not serve my aim loses strength. Consistency grows naturally. These are not commands. They are acknowledgments of a process already in motion. You do not need to force change. Change is occurring as alignment deepens. The mind corrects itself when it knows what it serves. Most men attempt to manage habits one by one. This is exhausting. Purpose manages them all at once by providing a standard. Standard simplifies judgment. With a standard, the mind no longer negotiates with temptation. It recognizes relevance or irrelevance and moves on. Others will sense this simplicity. They will see that you are no longer easily pulled into distractions. They may describe you as disciplined. You will feel simply directed. Direction removes friction. As the night deepens, allow this understanding to settle. There is nothing to enforce. The work is being done quietly. Tomorrow, discipline will feel less like effort and more like preference. Preferences guide behavior without strain. This is the quiet power of a definite chief aim. It organizes habit without struggle. It conserves strength without command. It creates consistency without fear. Rest now in this order. The mind is learning to obey purpose willingly, and what obeys willingly endures. When a definite chief aim settles fully within the mind, it does more than guide action. It reshapes identity. The man does not merely pursue a direction, he becomes identified with it. Purpose ceases to be something he holds and becomes something he is. This shift is subtle but powerful. Before the aim formed, the man acted from intention. Afterward, he acts from nature. What once required decision now feels automatic. The mind no longer asks who it should be in a given moment. The answer has been established. Identity governs conduct more surely than rules ever could. A man may break rules under pressure, but he will rarely violate his own sense of who he is. When purpose becomes identity, behavior aligns without supervision. Others sense this change almost immediately. They may not understand it, but they feel it. The man's presence becomes steadier. His words carry weight because they are not searching for approval. His actions feel inevitable rather than tentative. This is the quiet authority that cannot be imitated. It does not rely on position, title, or volume. It arises from internal agreement. Where agreement exists, hesitation disappears. Men without a chief aim often attempt to influence others through assertion. They push opinions, defend choices, and explain intentions. Men with a settled aim do none of this. Their consistency speaks for them. Consistency creates trust. Trust attracts cooperation. I have observed that leaders who command loyalty most effectively are those who appear least anxious to lead. Their direction is clear enough that others align naturally. This alignment does not require persuasion. Andrew Carnegie attracted capable men not by command, but by certainty. His purpose was so fixed that others felt secure attaching themselves to it. Security invites partnership. Henry Ford's workers sensed his direction long before they understood his plans. They trusted the man because he did not waver. Wavering breeds doubt. Steadiness breeds confidence. A man whose identity is anchored in purpose no longer needs to protect his image. Image belongs to insecurity. Identity belongs to alignment. Alignment does not require defense. This freedom from self-protection changes social behavior quietly. The man listens more, he reacts less, he speaks when speech serves. Silence no longer feels threatening. Others notice this composure. They feel that this man is not competing with them. Competition dissolves when purpose replaces comparison. Comparison belongs to drift. Purpose ends comparison by establishing a personal standard. When a man measures himself against his aim rather than others, envy fades. Admiration replaces it. He studies rather than resents. He learns rather than imitates. This change is visible. Others sense sincerity. They feel that the man is not performing a role. He is simply living his direction. This authenticity cannot be rehearsed. It emerges naturally when identity aligns with purpose. The subconscious reinforces this identity continuously. Each choice made in harmony strengthens it. Each day lived in direction confirms it. Identity becomes stable through repetition. Repetition here is not affirmation alone, it is lived agreement. Thought, habit, and action reinforce one another quietly. As identity stabilizes, fear of criticism weakens. Criticism loses power when it no longer threatens direction. The man does not need approval to continue. Others feel this independence. They may test it briefly, then accept it. Independence commands respect when it is calm. Purpose also alters how the man experiences solitude. Solitude no longer feels empty. It feels aligned. He does not seek distraction to avoid himself. He enjoys his own direction. This inner companionship strengthens resolve. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. My purpose defines me. I act from identity, not impulse. Consistency speaks for me. I am steady in my direction. These are not statements of superiority. They are acknowledgments of alignment. As the night continues, identity settles more deeply. The mind no longer rehearses alternatives constantly. It rests in chosen direction. Rest strengthens identity more than effort ever could. Tomorrow, others may respond differently without explanation. Conversations may feel easier. Decisions may face less resistance. These changes are the natural result of steadiness. The man has not changed others. He has changed alignment. Alignment influences without force. This influence does not exhaust because it does not push. It attracts. Attraction is the highest form of leadership. Leadership born of purpose does not require maintenance. It endures because it is rooted in identity rather than circumstance. Allow this understanding to settle now. There is nothing to perform, nothing to prove. Purpose is becoming visible through consistency. Identity is forming quietly, and what forms quietly lasts. Rest here. The work continues without effort. There is no principle more misunderstood, and none more powerful than repetition. Men associate repetition with dullness, as though greatness were born only from inspiration. Inspiration may begin a journey, but repetition is what carries it forward when feeling fades. A definite chief aim survives, not because it is exciting, but because it is returned to. Each return strengthens its authority. Each quiet agreement renews its place. The mind accepts what it encounters repeatedly in calm states as truth. Repetition is not insistence. Insistence creates resistance. Repetition is familiarity. Familiarity breeds acceptance. Acceptance governs conduct without effort. The subconscious does not ask whether an idea is important. It asks only whether it is frequent. What appears often becomes significant. What is significant becomes directive. This is why scattered repetition produces scattered lives. When a man repeats worry, comparison, and doubt nightly, those conditions become his masters. When he repeats direction calmly, direction takes command. I have observed that men who succeed steadily repeat their aim daily, often unconsciously. They think about it without strain. They feel it without urgency. It colors their choices without noise. Others see this repetition as consistency. Consistency is repetition made visible. Henry Ford repeated his aim long before it bore fruit. He returned to it after ridicule, failure, and delay. Repetition did not excite him. It steadied him. Andrew Carnegie repeated his central purpose until it became instinct. His mind returned to it automatically. That return filtered every opportunity and every alliance. Repetition is how purpose survives interruption. Interruption tests direction. What returns after interruption is what truly matters. Most men abandon their aims not because they are wrong, but because they are not repeated. An aim left unattended fades. Attention is the nourishment of purpose. The night hours are the most effective time for repetition because resistance is lowest. The mind does not argue. It accepts. It absorbs. This is why a simple idea repeated gently before sleep carries more power than a dozen declarations shouted during the day. Repetition need not be elaborate. It need only be steady. As the idea of your definite chief aim returns night after night, it grows familiar. Familiarity removes doubt. Doubt thrives only where unfamiliarity exists. You may notice that the aim feels more real each time it returns. This is not imagination. It is acceptance forming. Others will notice that you no longer revisit old indecisions. They may say you seem resolved. Resolution is repetition completed. Repetition also strengthens patience. When an aim is repeated calmly, the mind stops demanding immediate results. It trusts continuation. This trust prevents discouragement. Men who lack repetition rely on mood. Men who repeat rely on habit. Habit outlasts mood. This is why repetition must feel natural. Forced repetition signals doubt. Calm repetition signals certainty. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. I return to my aim calmly. Repetition strengthens direction. What I revisit becomes permanent. My purpose deepens with familiarity. These are not declarations of urgency. They are acknowledgments of law. The law works whether believed or not. Awareness allows cooperation. As repetition continues, the aim ceases to feel chosen. It feels assumed. Assumption is stronger than decision. Decision may be reconsidered. Assumption governs automatically. The subconscious operates almost entirely on assumption. What is assumed becomes behavior. This is why repetition must occur without struggle. Struggle tells the mind that the idea is not yet accepted. Calm tells it that acceptance is underway. Night repetition also protects the aim from erosion. During the day, opinions, events, and distractions may attempt to pull attention away. Night repetition restores alignment quietly. Others will sense this resilience. They will notice that you are not easily swayed. This steadiness invites confidence. Steadiness is the outward sign of repetition completed. The mind grows loyal to what it repeats. Loyalty produces endurance. Endurance produces achievement. As the body rests now, repetition continues beneath awareness. You do not need to think about it consciously. The subconscious recognizes the pattern. Each night strengthens the previous night's work. There is no loss. Only accumulation. Accumulation is slow, but it is unstoppable. Most men underestimate repetition because it lacks drama. They abandon it too soon. Those who persist quietly arrive. Purpose formed through repetition cannot be shaken by temporary failure. Failure tests excitement. It cannot test familiarity. Familiarity endures. As you rest, allow the idea of a definite chief aim to return without demand. Let it appear and fade naturally. Each appearance strengthens its place. You do not need to count repetitions. Counting belongs to effort. Habit forms without counting. The night mind keeps its own record. By morning, you may not feel different. That is expected. Repetition works beneath sensation. But over time, you will notice what no longer happens. Fewer doubts, fewer reversals, fewer abandoned starts. These absences are the proof. Repetition has done its work. Purpose is no longer fragile. It is becoming permanent. Rest now. The law is operating. And what operates quietly endures. One of the final obstacles that prevents men from living with purpose is the belief that they must understand everything before they begin. This belief keeps countless lives suspended in preparation. They wait for certainty, not realizing that certainty grows from movement, not from delay. A definite chief aim does not require complete explanation to guide conduct. It requires only direction. Direction precedes clarity. In the same way, dawn precedes sunrise. Light grows gradually, not all at once. I have observed that men who wait for full understanding rarely begin. Men who begin with partial understanding often arrive. The difference lies not in intelligence, but in trust. Trust that direction will correct itself through action. Purpose is not a rigid command. It is a guide that adjusts as experience accumulates. When a man moves in harmony with his aim, each step clarifies the next. Stillness born of fear produces no such guidance. Most men confuse caution with wisdom. True wisdom recognizes when delay has become avoidance. Avoidance disguises itself as careful thought, but it is rooted in uncertainty. Uncertainty fades when movement begins. The man with a forming chief aim does not rush blindly. He moves steadily, testing direction through experience. Each action either confirms alignment or reveals correction. Both outcomes are useful. Failure is not the enemy of purpose. Drift is. A man without an aim fails often because he is scattered. A man with an aim may fail temporarily, but his failures educate him. Education strengthens direction. This is why men like Edison were not discouraged by repeated setbacks. Each attempt clarified his aim further. He was not guessing randomly. He was refining purpose through action. Henry Ford adjusted plans repeatedly, but never abandoned direction. His clarity increased because he moved, not because he waited. Movement does not require boldness. It requires willingness. Willingness signals trust. Trust invites guidance from experience. Others sense this willingness as confidence. They see a man who is not frozen by indecision. They trust someone who moves forward even when conditions are not perfect. Perfection is the enemy of purpose. Purpose thrives on progress, not flawlessness. When a definite chief aim is present, even imperfect action produces benefit. Without an aim, perfect action is wasted. This is why purpose simplifies risk. Risk becomes relative to direction. What serves the aim is worth attempting. What does not is dismissed quietly. The man no longer fears choosing incorrectly, because correction is built into the process. Direction, once accepted, corrects itself through feedback. Feedback is not criticism, it is information. The mind that understands this stops punishing itself for missteps. Punishment belongs to uncertainty. Learning belongs to purpose. As purpose settles, action begins to feel less dramatic. It becomes ordinary. Ordinary action repeated consistently produces extraordinary results. Others notice this ordinariness. They see a man who works steadily rather than sporadically. They feel that his progress is inevitable rather than accidental. I have seen men awaken to this truth late in life and regret years of waiting. They believed they needed more clarity. In truth, clarity was waiting for them. The night mind understands this instinctively. It prepares the man to move by removing fear of imperfection. It replaces hesitation with readiness. Readiness does not demand urgency. It allows movement without pressure. Affirm this gently now, without strain. I move with direction, not fear. Clarity grows as I proceed. Correction strengthens my aim. I trust progress. These are not promises of success. They are permissions to begin. The subconscious responds to permission more readily than command. As the body rests, the mind rehearses movement without anxiety. It imagines acting in alignment rather than outcome. This rehearsal prepares confidence. Confidence is not belief in success, it is belief in direction. Belief in direction steadies the hand even when the path bends. Others feel this steadiness. They do not sense panic when conditions change. They trust a man who adjusts without losing direction. This adaptability is one of the greatest strengths of a definite chief aim. It does not trap the man in rigid plans. It allows refinement without retreat. Men who drift cannot adapt because they have nothing to adapt toward. Men with purpose adjust naturally. As you rest now, release the need to see the entire path. The path reveals itself only to those who walk. Stillness here is for formation, not avoidance. Movement will come when waking life calls for it. The aim you are allowing to form tonight does not require perfection. It requires loyalty. Loyalty to direction sustains effort even when enthusiasm fades. Enthusiasm is unreliable. Loyalty endures. This is why purposeful men appear patient. They are not waiting for excitement. They are committed to continuation. Continuation is power accumulated. As the night deepens, the mind accepts that movement is safe when direction exists. Fear weakens. Readiness grows. Tomorrow, you may notice a subtle urge to act where you once hesitated. Follow it gently. It is the mind testing alignment. Do not force action. Allow it. Each step taken from purpose strengthens the aim further. Each correction sharpens it. This cycle continues naturally when fear no longer interferes. Rest now with this understanding. Direction does not require full clarity. Clarity follows direction, and direction is already forming within you. There comes a moment when a definite chief aim no longer feels chosen. It feels assumed. At this stage, the mind stops asking whether it should continue. Continuation is no longer a decision. It is the natural state. This is the moment when purpose becomes identity. Identity governs conduct more powerfully than intention ever could. A man may abandon an intention under pressure, but he rarely abandons his sense of self. When purpose merges with identity, retreat becomes unnatural. This is why men who reach this stage appear unwavering. They do not appear rigid or stubborn. They appear settled. Their direction no longer fluctuates with circumstance or opinion. It holds because it is internal. I have observed that men who possess a permanent chief aim no longer speak often about it. Speech belongs to uncertainty. Certainty does not require explanation. The man simply lives his direction. Others sense this immediately. They feel that this man is no longer searching. His words do not circle. His actions do not hesitate. There is a quiet finality in his manner. This finality is not arrogance. It is completion of inner debate. Before identity forms, the mind revisits alternatives repeatedly. After identity forms, alternatives lose relevance. They may be noticed, but they are not considered. Consider how a man does not debate whether to be himself each morning. He simply is. In the same way, the man with a definite chief aim does not debate direction. Direction is assumed. This assumption removes a great burden. Energy once spent reconsidering is released for application. The mind becomes economical. Nothing is wasted. Others notice this economy as efficiency. They see progress where there was once preparation. They trust a man who does not restart himself constantly. The subconscious plays a decisive role in this permanence. Through repetition, agreement hardens into belief. Belief hardens into identity. Identity governs automatically. This is why repetition was essential, not to convince, but to familiarize. What is familiar feels natural. What feels natural becomes permanent. When purpose becomes identity, fear of failure weakens. Failure cannot threaten identity. It may alter method, but not direction. The man corrects without panic. Correction without emotion is mastery. Henry Ford corrected plans countless times, yet never corrected purpose. His identity remained fixed even when details shifted. This stability allowed adaptation without loss of direction. Andrew Carnegie's identity as a master organizer of industry remained intact regardless of temporary setbacks. He did not retreat because retreat no longer belonged to who he was. Men who have not reached this stage retreat often, not because they are weak, but because their aim has not yet become identity. Identity protects direction. Once identity forms, discipline requires no effort. Habits serve automatically. Attention returns naturally. Persistence becomes ordinary. Others describe this as character. Character is purpose, lived consistently over time. The man no longer measures himself against others. Comparison loses meaning when direction is personal. Envy fades. Admiration may remain, but imitation ends. Imitation belongs to uncertainty. Identity ends it. At this stage, the man's presence changes subtly. He is not hurried. He is not defensive. He does not rush to prove himself. Proof belongs to doubt. Others feel calm in his presence. Calm invites trust. Trust invites opportunity. Opportunity arrives differently now. It is no longer sought anxiously. It is recognized when it appears. Recognition replaces pursuit. The man does not chase every possibility. He selects according to identity. Selection is quiet power. Affirm this gently now, without urgency. My purpose is who I am. Direction no longer wavers. I live my aim naturally. What I am guides what I do. These are not aspirations. They are acknowledgments of completion. As the night deepens, identity settles further. The mind no longer rehearses alternatives. It rests in direction. Rest confirms permanence. Tomorrow, you will not need to remember your aim consciously. It will express itself through preference, habit, and decision without instruction. This is the sign that formation has completed its first full cycle. The definite chief aim you allowed to form tonight will continue clarifying itself through living. You will recognize it not by thought alone, but by consistency of action. Consistency is identity made visible. Others will trust it before you explain it. They will follow it before they understand it. They will respect it because it does not waver. You will no longer fear losing direction. Fear belongs to effort. Identity does not fear itself. The night mind recognizes this stability. It reinforces it without awareness. There is nothing left to arrange. Purpose is no longer forming. It is established enough to govern. Rest now in this certainty. The work of choosing is finished. What remains is living. And living will now move in one clear direction, quietly, steadily, without strain.